Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to review Of Lies and Rain VR, a game released on the Steam Store September 10th, 2025 in early access by developer Castello Inc. It normally retails for $40. I did buy this game and I played it on both the MetaQuest 3 and the HP Reverb G2 on my RTX 5090. Of Lies and Rain is a story-driven first-person shooter set in a dark sci-fi post-apocalyptic world at the edge of the real and digital realm. It's obviously inspired by Half-Life Alyx, but it's not Half-Life Alyx. And I want to make that perfectly clear before you buy this game thinking it's Half-Life Alyx, because it's not anywhere near the quality. This development team doesn't have anywhere near the resources that Valve had in making their game. So while the game is inspired by Half-Life Alyx, I think comparing them would be unfair. I think the fairer comparison would be Vertigo 2, but even then I think Of Lies and Rain, while a solid title, is still a notch below Vertigo 2. I think here the quality is closer to Vertigo 1 before that was remastered. Keep in mind Of Lies and Rain is in early access and it's still being actively developed. I will say though that for an early access title it is pretty polished. I only experienced a few bugs. There is a full game here with a full story. There is quite a bit of content. This is an 8 to 15 hour game depending on playstyle, and I'm not ashamed to admit that it took me nearly 15 hours to beat the game, but I like to go slow and experience all the content available. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Of Lies and Rain and I do recommend it, but let's talk about what I liked and what I didn't like specifically. First of all, Of Lies and Rain is running on the Unreal Engine 5.5. On my RTX 5090, I was getting mostly 90 frames per second on Apex settings with some drop frames here and there. This game was mostly bug-free. It is pretty polished for being in early access, but I did experience one major bug. For an unexplained reason, a door handle did not spawn on a door that I needed to open to progress. Luckily for me, after I switched out headsets, the door spawned with a door handle, so I was able to progress without any further major issues. You do have full locomotion along with smooth and snap turning. There's comfort options and you can play comfortably seated as well. My biggest complaint about the settings is that it's very easy to click on new game versus continue, and the biggest scare I got in this game was when I thought I had clicked on new game versus continue playing while I was near the end of the game. And I did test it out, and in fact there is no confirmation window when you click on new game, so be careful. The PC VR version is $10 more expensive than the Quest standalone version, and I have to admit that I was not a big fan of that, but this is related to the visual upgrade on PC VR. So the PC VR has 4K textures, dynamic light, dynamic shadows, bloom, more particles, no cap on FPS, and post-processing. And while I understand that logic by the developers and I understand that they need to make a profit, but at the end of the day I think that price point makes this game a hard sell because it is not the quality of PC VR that we are accustomed to. Quite frankly, this does not look like a PC VR first title. It looks like a Quest port with some improvements. Like I said earlier, I did buy this game, but the graphics were really disappointing to me personally. At this price point, I expect much better. And honestly, I would have a hard time thinking of a game that looks worse that's $40 or more on Steam VR. I really can't think of a game. The visuals look muddy, there's a lot of poor lighting, a lot of the textures do not look 4K to me. I thought the sound mix was better. The story is mostly voiced. I thought the voice actors did a nice overall job. The performances themselves did not stand out, but they were adequate. And I think the main problem here is that the conversations happen through comms versus face-to-face interaction. And in fact, you never run into another person. You're exploring a dark and desolate world. So in a way, you're detached from the rest of the world. So you never really feel that immediacy of the dire situation. There is good spatial audio and you can generally tell where enemies are coming from, even behind closed doors. And I thought the ambient sounds were great in this game, but I honestly can't even remember if there was a musical soundtrack in this game. If there was, it was pretty forgettable. Now the story itself I think has a good concept behind it, and I did enjoy the story overall, but it did seem like they talked more about what was going on than actually showing us. So there was a lot of exposition, and what we're seeing is actually just this very post-apocalyptic world that's dark and dreary, but we feel no connection to the world that we're trying to save or the people. And I don't want to do any spoilers, so I'll just leave it at that. Pretty vague. Hopefully enough detail to clue you in. But I do want to mention that there is like an alternate data world, and I honestly don't know if this was like a parallel universe or how this alternate reality affected the real world, but gameplay wise it was very different than the rest of the game. So in the data world you're actually mostly doing action platforming. In fact, you could probably call it a Metroidvania, and it's a Tron-like blue, red, white, and black world with lots of grids and cubes, and basically you just have to figure out how to get from the beginning to the end. And the rest of the game is in this post-apocalyptic world that's very dark. It's an Earth that's been overrun by AI-driven entities, and what you see is the end destruction of this catastrophic event. It's a narrative-driven first-person shooter with some physics-based puzzles and some logic puzzles for opening some locked doors. There's also a lot of climbing involved and some environmental dangers to be aware of. Several of the enemy designs are inspired by Half-Life Alyx, including the head crab. Here though, it's like a digital spider and it'll jump at your face if you let it. There's also a crowbar, but unfortunately, just like Half-Life Alyx, you cannot use it for melee damage. There is no melee here. But there are physics puzzles, and those were probably my favorite part of this experience. For example, early on there is a locked door and you can smash the door window with a crowbar and then reach over it and unlock the door from the other side. And my favorite answer to any physics problem was, hey, just blow it up. And that usually worked. But I was not a fan of a lot of the logic puzzles. Some were just like guide the ring around the wire type puzzle. Coincidentally, the logic puzzles were also my least favorite part of Half-Life Alyx. Most of the game though is first-person shooter. You have 3 main weapons, including a handgun, an assault rifle, and a shotgun. And to spawn them, you basically pressed a button, then moved your hand near the icon representing the weapon, and then it just spawned on your hand. You do manually reload the weapons and charge them, and there is an upgrade system for improving your weapon. You also have grenades, and you'll need to use them against the bigger enemies in order to quickly take them out. There's also usually explosive gas tanks spread about, and that's usually an indication that you'll need to blow something up. You also have health injections that you use, inhalers, and a gas mask. There's also lots of zip lines around that you'll get to use to quickly traverse the world. You'll get to ride on the subway a few times, so there's definitely some thrilling moments in this game. Beware though that there are some challenging portions to this game. I found some of the action platforming in the data worlds to be quite the challenge, and it could explain why only about 5% of gamers have beaten the game on Steam VR, at least according to the Steam achievements. I did mostly enjoy my time with this game. Like I said, I do recommend it. I think it's a solid game, but I will admit towards the end of the game I was getting tired of the data world action platforming. I was like, please not another one, and yet there was always another one. It doesn't help that if you fail you have to start at the very beginning of these sections. If I have to rate Of Lies and Rain, I would give it a 7 out of 10. It's a solid game, but the visuals are disappointing for PC VR, especially at this price point. The guide the wire to open the door sections are not good, and there may have been one too many data world sections, but solving the physics puzzles was fun. The enemy designs were cool, although the enemy AI could have been better, and it's an interesting world to explore, even if it was kind of drab. So like I said, I do recommend this game. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the video.
Yeah.